Welcome back to Miss Burkhart's math class. Make sure you have your notes in front of you as well as something to write with so you can fill in the notes as you watch the video. And remember, you can always pause the video if you need more time to fill in your notes completely. And of course, rewind or replay as you need to make sure you fully understand the information. So today we're going to talk about Standard 6.6a on adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing integers. Now, we're not going to cover all of that today. Today's lesson we're going to specifically talk about, and what you will learn, is what a zero pair is, and be able to model zero pairs using the two color counters. So let's get started. So just to refresh your memory, what an integer is. Remember, it is all of the whole numbers. That's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and on. It's not little decimals in between each of those, but it's all the whole numbers and the opposites of the counting numbers here. So the opposite of 1 is -1. The opposite of 2 is -2, and so forth. So it's all of the negative integers here and beyond. And as you remember from our number line, the positive numbers are to the right of 0. This is the side of the number line that you've been working on since kindergarten. And so we've just introduced the left of the 0, which are the negative numbers. And remember that 0 is neutral. It's not positive, it's not negative. It doesn't take sides, remember? It is 0 is neutral. So what are opposites? So some examples, and you're going to write some on your own notes, but examples of opposites could be positive 10 and negative 10, right? Positive 10 and negative 10, like if I have have $10, and then the opposite of that would be what? I lost $10. That would be the opposite. Another opposite, if I have, what would be the opposite of -1, excuse me, which is +1. And how could we represent that in, quote, real life situation? Let's say I had one bad thing happen to me, right? And what would be the opposite of one bad thing happen? Right, one good thing happen. So again, just some examples of opposites. And what happens, though, when we combine, also known as adding, when we combine opposites, when we add opposites? Well, this is where zero pairs come in. A zero pair is simply a pair of numbers that when added together equals, can you guess? Yep, 0. That's why it's called a zero pair, a pair of zeros. Another way to say that is opposites. When you add opposites together, it equals 0. They cancel each other out, right? If, like we said in our previous example, if I had one bad thing happen to me in a day and then I had one good thing happen, how was my day overall? Well, you could think of it wasn't good, it wasn't bad, it was neutral, right? The good and the bad canceled each other out, and I just kind of had a 0 day. It zeroed out. As an example. So let's go, and these are also on your notes, let's look at some of these examples and draw a picture, and we're going to also write a number sentence. So think about in football. If a team gains 10 yards, is that going to be positive 10 or negative 10? Gaining, so yes, that would be a positive 10. So football team, here they are on the field, and let's say they gain 10 yards. They move forward 10 yards, right? But in the next play, they then lose 10 yards. How would I represent losing 10 yards? What integer? Right, negative 10. So write these on your paper too. So on the next play, they get pushed back 10 yards, negative 10. How many yards, when you combine those two plays together, how many yards have they gained in total? 0, right? They went up 10 yards and they got pushed back 10 yards, so now they're right back where they started. So they gained 0 yards when you put those two plays together. Make sense? So let's write that number sentence out. Now, we don't have to put a plus sign in front of the positive 10, but we are for now. And a negative 10. Why did I put that negative 10 in parentheses? Really, it's just to keep it neat so the plus sign and the negative sign don't get mixed up. And what does that equal? 0. So opposites cancel each other out when you add them together. Let's look at the next one. Okay, so back to football, but now the team starts out and loses 12 yards. So let's say they're here, right? And then they get pushed back 12 yards. So that, as we said, losing 12 yards would be represented by a negative 12, right? But on the next play, they gain 12. So what integer would we use to represent gaining 12? Plus 12, right? Positive 12. So on the next play, they actually move forward, plus 12, 12 yards. But how many yards did they gain after those two plays? They're 0, right? They just canceled each other out. They're back where they started. So it's really not, it doesn't have any value. It canceled each other out. So how would we write that? We're going to start with, this time we started with negative 12, and then we combined the losing 12 yards with gaining 12 yards, but overall, they just gained no yards at all. When you combine those two plays together, they ended up right back where they started. So they didn't gain any and they didn't lose any. They just got that neutral, right? 0 yards. So let's try the next one. Here, if you find $5, how do we represent that with an integer? Positive 5. I'm just going to put a 5 without the symbol positive in front of it because that's another way to show positive 5. But then lose $5. How do we represent that? What integer do we use to represent losing 5? Negative 5. Good. So how much money then do you have overall? If you started with $5, right? But then you lost $5, how much money do you now have after those two situations? 0. You have nothing. So you had $5 and then you lost $5, negative 5, combining, which is adding, combining those two situations together, how much do you now have? 0. Now, some of you might be saying, but isn't that the same, Ms. Burkhardt, as like having $5 and then subtracting $5? Yes, it is. So look at the next one. If you owe the bank $5, how do we represent owing the bank? What integer? Negative 5. And then you're going to put $5 into your bank account. How much money do you have in your bank account? This can get tricky, right? Because you put $5 in, so that's a positive 5. But if you owed the bank $5, you then put $5 in, you do not have $5 in your account because you owed them money. So you essentially paid them back the $5 that you owed. So you now have what in your bank account? 0. Correct. So you owed them $5. You were in the red, $5, right? But then you paid them back, gave them $5, so now you don't have anything, which is better than owing, right? Better to have $0 than to owe money. So how would we write this in our number sentence? We're going to start with negative 5, and then we're going to add positive 5. And what do we get? 0. It's just the opposites. When you add opposites, combine opposite situations together, what do you end up with? 0. They cancel each other out. Last one. In one day, if you have two bad things happen to you, how will we represent that? Negative 2. And then you have two good things happen to you. What would that be represented with? A positive 2. How could you describe your day overall? If you combined your day and put your day together overall, you can have a positive day, a negative day. Well, in this case, it's neither, right? It's neither positive nor negative because the two good things kind of canceled out the two bad things. So your day was neutral, right? Neither positive nor negative. Think about that. Remember, 0 doesn't take sides. It's neutral. So it wasn't a positive day. It wasn't negative. It was just 0. So how would we write that? Negative 2 plus 2 is equal to 0. How are we doing so far? All right, so let's take it to the very next step, and this is where we're going to use counters. So before we just kind of use pictures and real life situations, if you will, to explain it. Now we're going to show with our counters. And remember our key here, in this case, the shaded in circle is -1, representing -1. The unshaded is +1. So here we have -2 plus 2. So that's taking our previous situation of 2 bad things happening and then 2 good things happening in our day. So, and this is what you'll need to draw. So we have 2 negatives. And then we're going to combine that, add that, putting that together with 2 positives. And so this is a way for you to see it visually with the counters. Look, you see you have your opposites. You have here a -1 and a +1. They cancel each other out. You had the one bad thing and you had the one good thing happen. So the way we're going to show that is to circle it, basically making a 0. Okay, it's a funny looking 0, but it's still a 0. Make a 0 around the 0 pair. And then do we have another pair of zeros? Yep. Here's another pair. So we're putting a 0 around the 0 pairs, the opposites. Okay? You could cross them off if you want, just to remind yourself that just negated, and so it has no value. So -2 plus 2 is 0. Getting the idea? Okay, the last part. Even though this is you try, we will do the first 2 together. Make sure you are writing these on your paper, on your notes as well, and then you will do the last 3 on your own. Yes, there will be the quiz questions that pop up, so but we'll get there in just a second. So a number sentence, let's use our counters. A +3 plus a -3. So let's draw 3 positive counters. They're the ones that are not shaded in. And to that we're going to add, put on, or combine, putting on 3 negatives. So this could be, you know, maybe you had $3 and then what? Right, and you lost $3. So let's circle our 0 pairs. Here's a 0 pair, opposites. +1, -1. Those are opposites. They make a 0. So I put a 0 around the opposites. Positive, here's another 0 pair. Here's another 0 pair. Notice that we now have, those all become 0. What is 3 plus -3? 0. So what happens when you add opposites? It equals what? 0. Good. Now one more that we're going to do together. So here we have -1 plus 1. So let's show that with the counters. -1 is a shaded in one, plus a positive. We're putting that on because we're adding. And what does that equal? Well, they're opposites. It's like I fell in a hole, 1 foot. I tripped into a hole that was 1 foot below ground. Remember, ground level is 0. It's neither above ground nor below ground. It's just right on the ground. So let's say I fell in a hole, 1 foot, and then I jumped out 1 foot. So where am I now? I'm on the ground. So they canceled each other out, make a 0 around the 0 pair. And what does that equal? 0. All right, so go ahead and you are going to do these one at a time on your paper first. You will be pausing the video. You're going to draw the counters on your paper. And then when you are finished and you have your answer, then you're going to press play. The quiz question will pop up. You answer it, and then press play again, and we'll do the next one. So go ahead and pause your video to do this first problem. Okay, so now time to do the next one. Same thing. Go ahead and pause the video to show you, take time to show your work on your paper, and when you're finished and have an answer, go ahead and press play to get the quiz question. Go ahead and pause your video. All right, and last but not least, same thing. Hit pause, solve, and then hit play once you're ready. Okay, how'd you do? Great job. Make sure at the end you hit submit so that it gives you credit for watching the video, and you will then be able to see your grade for the quiz questions. If you did not get a 100, go back. Check your work. Maybe see if there's just a little error so that you can get a better grade on this. And then bring your notes to class, and I will see you then.